severe sanctions are being asked to be brought to bear. Let me tell you what we'll be doing. We'll be having a conversation. I'll have a public health specialist who will be joining us. He's not a new face. Dr. Moisi, thank you very much. Good afternoon, and I welcome you. We'll also be going across to our correspondent, first of all, and as you can see, the Martina is all set. Albert Sori is also set, and Nasabit. They'll all be joining us. But here in Accra, which we're told is the area of the super spreading, we decided to go out to observe the extent of compliance on the ground. Manuel Cranting was at the Malamata market and observed what, well, you would call flagrant disregard for the COVID-19 protocols. But let me welcome our correspondent. Martina, it's good to have you. What is the situation in the northern region?
Well, the northern region has not recorded any COVID-19 case for the past 1 month, we are told. The last case was recorded earlier October. So we haven't had any recorded case yet. But there's total disregard for the protocols. You go to public functions and nobody is wearing a mask. People just mix, people greet the handshake as if nothing is at stake. And so when it comes to protocols, it's virtually zero. You go to marketplaces, public places, water for washing of hands, you don't find any. Some in cases you find buckets without water, or you find a bucket of water without soap. And so when it comes to respecting the protocols, I would say that it is not observed in the region.
Pretty interesting that we're not getting any corresponding spike in cases over there. Hang on, Martina, for me. We'll get some response to that. Albert, sorry, if you're there, help us understand the situation in your area. Okay, we lost Albert there. Anas, do we have Anas? Anas, Abit, are you there? Okay. So Martina is the only one on the line with me at the moment. Let me bring in Mr. Moisi, Dr. Moisi. Doc, thank you. I just want you to comment quickly on what Martina has just reported, that in the northern region you would have blatant disregard for the COVID-19 protocols, but in the last 1 month there hasn't been any single case recorded there. Is there a way we explain this?
No, thanks for that. It's nice to be on the show this afternoon. It's raining pretty heavily here in Kumasi, so do let me know if the line is not really good. Now, Martina mentioned that in the northern region, we're not seeing any surge in cases just yet. But you see, you need to understand the nature of this virus, which is that you see the impact of activity with a certain time lag, which means that you don't begin to see things immediately when they happen. The best example which we have right now is what we're seeing in Europe and in North America, but particularly in Europe today. You realize that the Europeans went for their summer holidays towards the in June and in July, and it's only in October and now in November that we're beginning to see the massive surge in what we call the second wave. So in the same way, what we're seeing in Ghana now, especially in Accra, it's only a reflection of stuff that happened about a month ago when we really threw caution to the wind. And so it's only a matter of time when what Martina was mentioning, she's seen in the northern region, with people taking things easy, begins to catch up. So in the next 2 weeks, max 3 weeks, if things continue this way, we're likely to see a surge, not only in Accra, but also in the other regions. So it's just a matter of time. It's really important to understand this time lag nature of the impact of lack of public health measures.
Dr. Moisi, hang on for me. Let me bring in our other correspondent. I do have Albert Sori, who has also joined in. Hello, Albert. Albert, what's the situation in the Upper East region? Let's start from there.
Yes.
Yes, Albert, go ahead.
Hello, Gifty. Can you hear me?
I do, perfectly. Go ahead.
Right. So, just like Martina said, in the Upper East region, the situation is not too different. Before I came on this Zoom meeting, I was trying to cross-check with health authorities for figures regarding any tests or what the situation is as far as recorded cases are concerned. I haven't had a response yet, so I won't be able to speak to the number of people or what the extent of cases we have recorded is as at now. So maybe later I can do that. But on the issue of how people are treating the issue of the COVID-19 protocols, it's just as Martina said. One of the things we realized towards the last one, from the last 1 month to now, is that when the rainy season was exiting, the weather became very warm. So people tended not to like putting their face masks on, because when they wear it for some time, they start sweating.
Yeah.
So a lot of people would rather, remove the face mask so that it can reduce the amount of discomfort they were feeling in the heat. Now, it's one of the things we observed. But we've moved into the Harmattan. So now the weather has become dry and dusty. So people have started to wear their masks on again. But you would realize when you speak to people that it's no longer even just about COVID-19, but because they want to be able to, breathe more easily in the Harmattan weather.
Yes.
So it's one of the things. With hand washing and hand sanitizers and all of that, you would find, soap and water in most places. This afternoon, I've been around. I went to the Regional Coordinating Council. We had soap and water there. I've been to some other places. So people are still complying. The only thing you find people not doing was the consistency with wearing the face mask. And people, tend to either wear it or remove it based on how they are feeling about the weather, rather than trying to prevent
the COVID-19, which is a good point you make there, because having covered the northern part of Ghana, wearing of masks is not so new. So I assume that this will be something that they transition rather easily into it. Let me bring in, I have Bono and Bono East. Anna Sabit, let me start with you, Bono East. What is the situation there? How do people observe the protocols? Are they doing it at all? And do you know the latest figures there?
Gifty, let me start with how the people are complying to the protocols lately. Yeah. In fact, here in the Bono East region, you hardly see people in mask, honestly, when you walk the streets of Tichman and in other parts of the region I have visited so far. In fact, the only people who usually comply to these protocols now are, the workers whose institutions have made it mandatory for them to put it on, the financial institutions, and then some other offices, public offices, where you go and then they enforce the usage. Apart from that, even in these institutions, you walk out of the offices and then the staff or the people around the office will not be on mask as it was before. And for the market areas, that is where the situation is even terrible. Because now you walk through the Tichman Central Market and you wouldn't even know that COVID-19 is still in existence. You pinpoint one or two people you see in the mask. When you even ask, they say, the virus is no more, so there's no need being in mask, when we know actually the virus is not as it used to be. With regards to the hand washing protocols also, unlike before, now even institutions where you go and they're always having the Veronica buckets and then the soap for hand washing. Now you go to some of these institutions, some you will find the Veronica buckets available. Maybe the water and the hand washing soap are not available for you to use it, because they feel COVID-19 is a thing of the past, and as a result, those protocols are strictly not being adhered to. These are what I've observed lately. But in regards to the figures also, I tried to read the regional health director moments ago. Unfortunately, the slide was not reachable, so I'm unable to gather the latest statistics on that angle as also. So this is the situation from the Bono East region. Gifty.
That's okay. I want to take two more, and then I'll come to you, Dr. John Amoisi. And because one thing I want us to also look at is, can you blame people who feel? and actually see around them that nobody is getting sick, and they feel that the coronavirus is over. Because first of all, mind you, we also stopped the regular updates at the Ministry of Information at a point. So I want you to just think about this shortly for me, Dr. Moisi, as I engage Bono region. Precious Semevo. Precious, how are people complying with the protocols in your area, and what is their perception towards where we are? Do they think it is over, as many people seem to?
Precisely. The people in the Bono region think that the COVID-19 situation is done as far as Ghana as a country or the region is concerned. Particularly within the last 2 months, I have traveled to almost all the 12 districts in the region. And every district I've been, the situation is that bad. You are seen wearing the face mask and trying to distance yourself, and people sort of look at you as if you are a stranger who is trying to be holier than thou. And someone will even approach you and tell you that if you would die, we would have died a long time ago. So there's nothing in the country. So the wearing of face masks, gathering, funerals at the market centers is non-existent.
Right.
The situation is even worse. Public transport, which
just tell us why you are not wearing it.
I expect you to adhere to the protocols by insisting that passengers put on their face mask before they join vehicles.
Precious, let me bring in Dr. Moisi here. Doc, look at what is happening across the regions. We've gone to the northern region, we've gone to the upper east, we've gone to Bono East, and we've gone to Bono region. Now, everybody seems to be on the same page. Everybody feels that, well, we've conquered it. We're done. We've also seen politicians, and these are people who are also watching. They've seen politicians gather up in the run-up to the elections, you know, some of them not wearing the mask. You know, we've seen huge crowds, and you just see a few people wearing the. Can you blame the people who actually have this disposition, because the state itself isn't doing some of the things they expect to see that reflects what then they should do?
I think you raise very important issues, and it's important to also put these in context so we can understand. And this is why we often speak about education very, very passionately when looking at public health, because education has a way of allowing, of serving as a very potent vehicle for public health messaging. That notwithstanding, you know, that on its own does not always cut it, or does not always work, because if you watch the international news, you will see how otherwise educated people in Europe and North America are pushing back against some of the basic public health measures. You will even hear otherwise erudite people speaking conspiracy theories and alternative theories to and challenging the very existence of the virus and the risk of spread. And I was listening to one statement by a very well-spoken elderly British gentleman speaking to a crowd in London, totally debunking the reality of the virus and the risk thereof. Now, when I'm speaking of education, the reason is that public health is often a victim of its own success. And we call this a paradox. This is because if public health is working well, or working optimally, you will not see anything. Public health is largely preventative in nature. And so if you are succeeding in preventing something from happening, it means that you will not see that thing. So when public health is working at its maximum efficacy, you will not see anything happen. And when things are not happening, people think that people are not working or there is no danger. Now, this is where the paradox lies. So when you begin to see things, it only tells you that your preventive measure, your public health has a problem, or that there are debts in it. So with that, we need to help people to appreciate that balance between what they see and what they don't see. And to point out to them that what we really want is not to see anything. I don't think people need to see, bodies in the streets and really grotesque situations before they begin to get convinced that this is a reality. We don't anticipate that we'll see this in Ghana. Beyond all these issues about people dying, it's also the bigger concern of the long-term impact that this may have on the health of individuals, which we just do not know right now.
Yeah.
And my worry is that if we just focus on the ultimate outcome of death, which I think is most important at this stage, and forget that there could be some serious health ramifications, which will then translate into economic and quality of life ramifications, then we might be missing the boat.
And sorry to jump in here, Doc.
Not even tomorrow, but in the months to come.
Right. Sorry to jump in there, Doc. You made a very good point about the measures that are in place, especially when it comes to education, etc., and the other public health measures. I want to just go around our correspondent one last time, get them to comment on what has been done in the region regarding the point that you have just made, and then I'll let them go. Then we'll wrap up with our conversation. So let me bring in OT region. OT region, we have Peter Seno there who is standing by for us. And then we also have the Volta region. I think Ivy has been on a bit longer. Let me quickly engage Ivy and then I go to OT. Hello, Ivy. Ivy, what is the situation in the Volta region? Now, this is a region that is known to be a stronghold of one political party. So a lot of political activities have been going on there. Mind you, the governing NPP has been trying to make inroads there. So they've also doubled the action there. Tell us, Ivy, how is the situation there in terms of observing the protocols? Ivy, you're muted. Unmute for me so we can all hear you. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Like poor thing that the disease is no more here with us, and especially the most annoying thing for the school children who are not using the mask or adhering to the protocols. You see, political parties, you only see a few of them adhering to the protocols, especially the wearing of masks. So the situation is the same. It's worrying to see a lot of people not adhering to the protocols because they think that the disease is no more there and no one is dying from the disease, no one is getting sick. It is really, really worrying. So right now, we are just hoping that the health directorates in the region does something fast.
Yeah.
Maybe
and I was just going to get to that, Ivy, to find out, are they doing anything? What is happening in terms of the response? Are they regional health directors or anybody doing anything? Is there anything going on as far as COVID-19 is concerned? Are they talking about it?
According to the public health director, that's we said they are trying their very best to do more education on the issue so that people can adhere to the protocols as it used to be. But one thing I saw yesterday and today, currently I'm in Hong where some of the political parties, few ones, especially the major ones, that's the MPP, MPP's Herbert Krapper, was donating some items. We realized that throughout his donation, he was wearing the nose masks, except that they were not adhering to the washing of hands and other things. The health director said they are doing everything possible to make sure that more education is given to the public so that they can go adhere to the protocols. And the NCCE is also doing education. As for the NCCE in the region, every morning they go on the local stations to educate the people on the need to adhere to the protocols. But I think there is more to be done because, especially for the school children, both the JHS and the SHS, because right now they are relaxed and nothing is happening. Most of them don't use
the mask. Ivy, thank you so much for that very detailed update. So NCC is doing some work. The regional health directors say they're doing their work, but the schools especially, there's a problem there for you. OT region, let me wrap up with OT region on this one. OT region, we haven't heard you on whether or not people are observing the protocols, but do you also see the NCCE at work in your area in terms of education?
Yes, Gifty. When COVID broke initially, we saw the NCC actively at work. But now that everything seems to be dying down, very little is seen of these institutions in terms of the protocols with the fight against COVID-19. In fact, the schools, I can say that are getting a little relaxed. We don't want to mention names yet, but you see students hold their mask on the streets, and then they only wear it when they are getting to the schools. And some schools you go, it's a relaxed kind of thing. You see people offering hands. I see politicians hug and shake hands all along. And when you complain, it's like you are just trying to play something else. And so we are in difficult times, Gifty, and the rules are being relaxed every now and then, and we don't see people observe it as it used to be. If you go to the landing site at Dambai, where previously all commuters would have to wash their hands before getting on board the ferry, it is no longer like that. Everyone walks in and walks out. And it's a difficult situation here, as people still believe that COVID is just a creation of the politician and that it is not real. That is something that we would have to do a lot of education to help remove from the minds of the people. Gifty.
Peter, thank you. So it looks like one point has been made here. Let me wrap up with the rest of the correspondent, and then we can let you go and we focus on the conversation with Dr. Amoisi. Anas and Precious. Anas, is there anything going on in terms of education? Doc has just talked about the importance of education. Give us an idea what authorities there are doing.
From what I know, there's nothing close to that. I previously, I know the regional health directorate and then the municipal health directorates used to go to the radio stations to educate the masses on the dangers associated with the virus. But now, I don't remember the last time I've heard anything close to that on radio. Neither have I heard or seen anything being done by the NCCE here in the area. So for education, from what I know, I can't say I've seen anything close to that in recent times. Zero, nothing is going on here. And the people here, like my other colleagues said, when they see you in mass, they want to make mockery of you, as in you are the type who is very fearful of the virus, when actually the virus is not in existence. So that's the situation here. No education whatsoever. Maybe from now onwards, we may see them on the grounds trying to educate the people.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Anas. And Precious, you make it snappy for us, if you may. Hello, Precious, you are muted. Precious, can you hear me? Yes, so wrap up for me in terms of education, you know, the line that will, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So when the COVID situation started, almost everywhere you go to, you have people from different institutions, the health services, the service commission, the district assembly, in fact, almost all stakeholders, almost all institutions doing their part to sensitize people as ready to observe the protocols. But as it stands now, there's absolutely nothing like education.
All right.
Almost everybody has gone to sleep, and we need to wake up.
Thank you very much, all of you, for your contribution. I earlier had Martina Bugri, our correspondent in the northern region. I had Albert Sori, Upper East region. I had Ivy Seto, Jivota region, Peter Seno, Oti region, and Nas Sabit, Bono East region, and Precious Semevo, Bono region. Thank you, guys. Let me come back to you, Doc Amoisi. You've heard the point that they make. The NCE seems to be doing some work. What do you think, from a public health perspective, government ought to do, or perhaps all of us ought to do, even the local government representatives ought to do with an organization like the NCCE to boost this education that you talk about?
No, thanks for that. I think the reports from the correspondents really present a graphic picture of the reality on the ground regarding our preventative measures. It just goes to support what the president said yesterday, and he provided some very concrete figures based on work that was done in some parts regarding the mask wearing, and he indicated that this had dropped so precipitously from about 44% down to about 5%. And from your correspondence, we see that the picture is actually maybe even worse across the country. There's two things that we need to do. The first would lie largely in the bosom of the government and the health authorities. which is to really step up our tracking, testing, tracing regime, to have a real handle on the actual rate of spread of the infection. This is something that some of us have been speaking of for a very long time and which we're yet to see, which is really the setup of Sentinel sites where we will be measuring on a regular basis, almost on a daily basis, and use this as a representative sample of the country to determine how quickly the disease is spreading or what our infection rates are. This is a matter of necessity. Second thing that we need to do is to embark on very serious seroprevalence studies to try and understand how many people have already been exposed to the disease and have actually got it at some point in time, whether or not they may have known it. This seroprevalence study will do, again, two major things for us. One, it will give us a greater degree of confidence in our planning towards how to manage the movement of people, whether to increase or reduce restrictions. And it will also give us a good idea of how much of a vaccine we should bring in once there is one, which areas of the country these needs to be focused on, and so on. And the third and final thing that we need to do is to keep the education going. You can see today on your station, Joy, how COVID has really dominated the news. But think about last week, there was hardly any mention of COVID on the news. It's now a hot take. This is natural. We're all like this. We go where it's hot. So really not to relent. And as I mentioned before, there's always this paradox of public health. When nothing bad or nothing is happening, then we don't talk about it because it looks like there's nothing to talk about. But we need to keep on talking about it. And I really want to encourage the media houses to keep on speaking of this, even when the cases go down, keep on speaking about it so that we can maintain those measures and hopefully eventually stamp this out. But if we don't do this, we will see what we've seen today, well, we're seeing right now with this rebound. And this may not be the last rebound because the virus is still in circulation.
Yeah. And that will be and as we heard from the president yesterday, the character of the virus has not changed. According to the president, those who are working on the genetic structure of this virus, they're saying that it remains the same. My final question, Doc, is that do you think that perhaps this has anything to do with our opening up of the our border, our airports? Do you think that this may have anything to do with it at all? Because we've seen how the virus is behaving elsewhere, in Europe, for example.
Well, I can answer you very directly on that. I do not think it is directly correlated with the opening of the airport. Not only I do not think, but also the evidence does not support this. And I think a number of eminent scientists you've had on your panel have supported this position as well. It's really important that we assess every hypothesis and take it on its merit. It is certainly a worthy hypothesis to think about it. After all, the first cases we had were imported via people who came through the airport. So it's fair enough to think about it this way. But what the scientists at WACBIB showed from their sequencing work, and I can tell you that some sequencing work has also been done by my colleagues here at the KNUST, what that suggests is that the virus in circulation is very much what it has been all the time. Nothing significantly new has come out from outside. That's the first point to note. Secondly, if you look at the numbers of tests, the thousands of tests that have been conducted at the airport so far, the numbers of positives which have had from there, and compare that to what we were even having before the airport was opened up. And that should tell you that the cases we're having today are largely a function of the lowering of our guard, as the president put it. Schools were open, churches were opened, a bunch of things happened. We did not see a surge. Even at the time when our testing was at its peak, going higher, we were seeing a lower number of cases relative to the number of tests. At the time, people were really taking the hand washing seriously, were trying their best to practice the social distancing. What this tells you is that this is not rocket science. If you let your guard down, you stop the hand wash, you stop the hand sanitizer, disregard the social distancing, the cases will go up. And it's just as simple as that.
Doc, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Quite a number of minutes you spent with us there. Dr. John Amwesi is a public health specialist with KCCR. Certainly, he does it very eloquently and comprehensively.